Hello, 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 hello again. How you guys doing? Let me see if everything is okay. Yes, it seems to be. Let me move this, and it's probably a little bit noisy, but I'm going to turn off the AC. Magic. All right. Yeah, how are you guys doing? I am pretty excited to show you guys this. Um, First of all, what is this, right? So let me show this first. All right. So what I want to do today is, and this is, I'm going to continue this on the next episode, on the next stream. But what I'm going to do today is I have this little application that I'm developing to send invoices to my clients. Now, how this works is I have clients, right? And some of them are hourly based, some of them are daily based, some of them are monthly based. So I want to have a way to record all my customers with their emails and etc. and send some invoices to them. So here I will have a button, a plus icon button, where I can create a new invoice. I select the client. I just select the number of days that I've worked for the client in case of a daily base client, and I create an invoice for that. Monthly base, it's simple enough, right? It's always the same rate. Hourly base and daily base is different because I have to calculate. So every month I have to send something from one of my clients. I have to calculate everything. I have to keep track of all the days that I've worked and create a spreadsheet somehow to send my clients. And I have to fill up every time my invoice design is on Adobe InDesign. So I have to create, not create, it is created, but I have to change everything every time I have to print something to one of my clients. So I thought to myself, why not create an application to do that for me? It's going to be just for printing the invoices, but that's exactly what I need. The database for this application, actually the Beaver. Let me go to the Beaver. The database for this application is super simple. I have my clients, I have my invoices, I have my invoice lines, because obviously the invoice is just, the definition of that invoice. When is it due? When did I send them? Is it paid or not? What is the not value, but who's the customer, etc., etc. So the data for the invoices is here. This is all mocked data, by the way. I don't. If you're worried about, yeah, well, what are these values? Do you receive these values? No, this is mock data. So, and you can see by the dates, by the way, right? To everything on the same date. So this is mocked data. I have here an invoice, and I have the invoice lines for those invoices. And the invoice line is what gives me the values. So if I have, for example, this is daily rate and this is hour rate. If I have 11 days or 15 days, 220 euro per day, and no discount and no taxes, this is the value that I get, right? Is that the values, these two here. If, however, I have an hourly base, then the calculation is a little bit different, and This one is this here. So this is a daily, this is a daily, this is an hour. So yeah, I have everything that I need here to create the invoice or the invoices. I have a view that makes the all the calculations for me, right? And now I have everything that I need. Well, almost everything. Because the problem is I'm still printing the invoices separately because this is not enough. I mean, this is not enough to calculate. What I wanted to say is I'm still using a spreadsheet to keep track of the days and hours that I work for a company. This is not what I want to do anymore. I want to keep everything in one place. So this is an application that I'm developing for myself to keep track of all my clients, my company profile, which is what appears here, right? It will have a little bit more stuff on that form, so I can put the picture and I need to see my profile. Yeah, it's missing the picture. I have to have something here to send, to upload a picture, a new picture, my email address, etc., etc. So the name is what shows up when I mouse over here. And yeah, I need to fix this form. And then I have my documents, which, by the way, doesn't have anything, because here is where I want to store all my documentation, my company documentation, the company contract, the bank information, quality, the quality control documentation, etc. Everything that I have that is related to the company, I want to store here on this application, because when I start a new contract with a new client, they always ask for the same documents, and then I have to search inside a plethora of folders to try to find the documents that I need. And if I don't, I have to create new documents, and then I store on my local machine, and some others I store on the cloud. So it's a mess. I want to have something that I can access, and everything is inside that. And if I want to send a sort of documents to some clients, I just click, select the ones that I want, select the client on a drop down, click send, a button, and that gets sent to the client, because everything is in one place. So it's best this way. So yeah, you guys saw that I have some companies already registered here. Again, this is just mocked data. I have this working calendar here is what I want to create now. So the working calendar is like a Google Calendar. If you can imagine the Google Calendar page, I am going to open, by the way, something that is Toast UI. So this is a very neat calendar that you can imagine a lot of features for this this amazing calendar, and it doesn't work anymore. Okay, so you can imagine a lot of features for this calendar, and this is what I want to achieve. Not all those features, right? I don't want the drag and drop thing. I don't want the resize thing. I don't need any of this. But the layout is what I'm after, right? This type of layout is what I'm after. Because having a calendar like this, what I can do is I can have my clients up here on a drop down, and I can select one, and based on the type of the client, if it is hourly based or daily based, I can then click one a day, and it's going to automatically create an event for me for that day based on the information that I have for that client. So if it is a daily based client, it is going to show something like this. So taking the entire day and the name of the client, right? If it is hourly based, it will show something like this, right? Which is it's going to show me a something like this with the date, and I can put the starting time and end time, and the name of the client will be here. So it's going to be the start time, end time, and the name of the client. So this is what I want to achieve in the end, because right now I don't have any calendars, and this, although is very, very good, it has a few bugs. I identified a few bugs on it, and honestly, this is not hard to do. And I want to create, instead of using this is a huge component, right? And it has a very, very big API as well. I don't need any of that. I just need the basics. So why not create our own calendar? And this is what I want to do for this page here, for this application. This video has nothing to do with the application, but it has, well, it has a little bit. It has something to do with the fact that I'm going to be using JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, to create the component. So I don't need this anymore. Let me stop the server. Yep. Okay. So yeah, I'll explain. I'll talk about this project in another video, or in another chapter of this streams. But yeah, for now, what I want to do is I want to start a new calendar component. So I have here just a empty project where I'm going to add a few things. So first of all, an index HTML, so we can test our component. And I'm going to add a source. Should I have assets? Probably not. But source components. No, I just have the component here. So, okay. So I have source. I will have components.js. And why components and not just component? Although this is just for the calendar, I should make, because my idea is this: I want to have a library of components that I can reuse. I'm not going to create every component there is, because Shoelace already has that, but it doesn't have any calendars. So Shoelace is a very good custom web component, native web components library, but it doesn't have a few things. Calendar is one of them, because when you have a super complex component, normally you have to do it yourself, because these libraries don't really have anything that you can use. This Toast UI, like I said, is pretty good, but you know, it has a few bugs, and I think this is a cool project. This is a cool application to develop. So yeah, in the end, I want to have a library of components, but this one is just a calendar, right? So let's just put calendar here, and that's it. So this is my calendar.js. First things first, how do we create a custom web component? So what I want to achieve is, I want in my body, I want to say something like easy calendar, and I want to see a calendar on the screen, right? This is what I want. So how do we create a custom element in HTML? We are going to be using the shadow DOM. The shadow DOM is something that people talk about, but they normally don't really use. And if you go for simple elements like a input type number box, for example, or type email or anything, right? And if you check this, I'm going to just go for this server here so you can see the page. So this is a email box, right? What is different from the other types of boxes, you cannot see anything here, but it is validating emails. So if you check the code for the input box, well, it's just an input box, right? There's nothing else here, nothing fancy. But if you check the shadow DOM, because this component is it's a how do we say? This component has other things below this, just this element. And if you go here and you ask to show the shadow DOM, there's an option here, right? Let me try to find it. So elements, show user agent shadow DOM. This is an option on Chrome that you can turn on and off. It's normally off. So I'm going to turn this on just so we can see. Now you have this, right? You have the shadow root of this element. If you take a look inside, it's a div. This is crazy. And I mean, if you check the shadow DOM root agent, you have the writing mode, font style, you have color, etc. A lot of stuff here. This is a div display block. This is crazy. From an input, if you check what is inside, you have actually a div. And it becomes a little bit more interesting if this is a number box instead. Because the number box, as you guys remember, has these two things here that you can use to change the numbers, right? So if we check what is inside this, check it out. We have a lot of stuff inside. So we have text field container, and you can see this is a grid because, let me check here. So align center, display flex, WebKit user modifier, etc., etc., and the content. And if I mouse over, you can see here that it has two pieces. One piece is for this, and the other is for the text. So it's pretty crazy. If you check, if you start checking what is inside some of these elements from HTML5, you'll see that these are all custom elements made by the browser, by the company that built the browser. So these are native just because the company said, okay, this is going to be included on the HTML5 language. So yeah, there you go. So you do have some things here under the shadow DOM, okay? So in a way, what we are going to do is like the same thing. So how do you create a custom web element, a custom web component? You create them by using the word, you create by creating a new class. You give it a name, right? And then you extend this class using an HTML element. You can actually use any HTML element. This is the generic one, but you can use div, you can use body, data, form, head, and even, like you see here, span and input. So if you want to create a masked input, for example, you can base yourself on the HTML input element instead of the HTML element, because this one is a generic one and the input one is more specialized, right? But what I want to create in this case is a very generic one. So this is what I am going to do. So let me just open the calendar here on my second monitor. Just a moment, please. Okay, so I can see and base myself on the calendar, see what I have to do. So first of all, since this is a class that extends from another class, I do have to create a constructor. And the constructor has to have a super, because the super is going to run everything that is the initialization of the parent class, okay? And for this element, I am going to have, what I like to do normally is to have a render and also a refresh functions, but in this case I just will, I'll just have the render method. But you can do everything in the constructor, right? I could write the entire code in the constructor, but to be able to call this later, and by the way, obviously this dot render on the constructor, just to render the first instance of your component. But I'd like to have the option to re-render if I want to update some dates, some data, for example. So this is why I put everything separate. Okay, so in this case, I will have, how do you create a native web component? You have to, first of all, open the shadow DOM. So this, and remember, this is a HTML element, so it has a DOM. Shadow root, okay? Actually, this is attach shadow. So I'm going to attach a shadow DOM to this element, right? And this dot shadow root is what we're going to use later to access this shadow DOM. But for now, let's just open the shadow DOM. So attach, and I will have the mode open and delegate focus true. The delegate focus obviously is for me to have, if I want to tab through the components on the screen. This one is going to yield the focus for the next component if there is one. All right, so with this, now what I can do is I can attach things to the shadow root, right? But before we do that, how do I like to compose? Because what you can do from here, you can just append child, and you can append a new node and continue from that, right? You can add as many nodes as you want. But this is kind of difficult to work with. The easiest way to do things is to create a template. So const template. This is going to be a new document, create element template, right? Because it's easier to work with templates. In the template, what I can do is I can say template.inner HTML, and then I can create the HTML that I want here inside, right? This is exactly what I want to do. And then in here, instead of append child, what I can do is I can append the content of the template to my shadow root. This is going to work, right? But just as a tip for you, if you never worked with the DOM like this, you know, accessing directly the DOM and the shadow DOM, etc., it's always best to have a copy of your objects instead of a reference to your objects, Because if I do this, I'm referencing this constant, right? This variable. So I don't want to do that because every time I change anything in here, this is going to change something in here. And I don't want that. So what I want is a clean copy of my object. So what I can do here, I can get the template content and clone deep, right? Because clone deep is going to copy all the children and the children of the children and so on and so forth. So here, when I do this, I don't have anymore a reference to this. Now it's a separate object, it's a separate element or set of elements that I'm copying to the shadow DOM, right? To the shadow root. So there you go. This is basically what you have to do to create a new element. And after that, obviously, with this, let's say I have, for example, an age 1 here, right? Hello world, obviously, right? What I have to do, because I just defined the class. So now what I have to do is I have to say to the browser, there is a custom element that is using this class. It has this custom element has this schema. So custom element dot define. You give it a name. We know that is going to be easy calendar. And then you give it a constructor. The constructor is the class that we just created. Perfect. Let me just do something like this. So let me pick up the this and do something like this. So we can see the page with our new component, right? So let me get rid of this input, save this page, save this, and now I'm going to bring the script to this page. It's in source calendar, and there you go. Because I have this here, it's showing. If I copy and paste this 3 times or 4 times, I would have hello world. And if I inspect this element, you can see this is a easy calendar element. And just like we saw on the other box, I have a shadow DOM, a shadow root for this element. And the child of this shadow root is my age 1 with hello world, which was exactly what we've defined here. Okay, this is the basics to create a custom web component that you can use and reuse in this case. So you can see that I can copy as many as I want, and this just works. So now what we can do is we can start creating our calendar, and we'll put the HTML inside this and is going to show here. This is the idea, right? But this is difficult as well because I am going to be writing HTML inside of a string, which is not ideal. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this as it is. So this is going to be my, I'll change this for span. And I'll say calendar component here. Right? There you go. And I'm going to be creating the calendar component here, outside, right? Calendar component. Can do stuff like this. And then I can create my calendar component outside. And this is easier because writing HTML here, it's beneficial because I have all the features that Visual Studio Code gives me. One of them is automatically closing tags. I have my automatic indentation, and most importantly, I have IntelliSense. It's very, very important for me. So let's create an easy calendar component, which in this case is going to be inside this container. Okay. Now, I'm not going to be worrying about styling this element just yet. We are going to see a few options to style the elements later, but I just want this to work for now. Okay. So now it's time for me to go over the calendar component and see what I need. Okay, so the calendar component. Before we start, let me create a few styles here, because I can see that the calendar component has a little bit of strange alignments. So first of all, let's remove margin and padding for everything. Define box size and border box. Outline none. And in this case, I want use select none as well, because then we cannot select anything on the page. That's what I want. Okay. I don't like to use tables, but for a calendar, you can see how this would be exactly what I want. I hate using tables, but yeah, let's use a table. So I'm going to style my table like I'm going to style my table with 100% width. I am not going to mess with the height, because the height is going to be controlled by the grid. I'm going to show what I mean. Table TDs are going to have a style. Let me think. Oh, Jesus. Okay, first of all, table TH, padding 8 pixels. Table TD is also going to have padding 8 pixels, but is also going to have a border solid 1 pixel, RGBA, and 0.25 maybe. I want this to be very subtle. All right. So what do we have here? We have a navigation on the top, right? With the buttons for next month. Yeah, it should be next month, previous month, and the year. We are going to come up with something that is easier to navigate. And then we have our table, right? We have a header, so let me create a T head here, and we have a body. We don't have any footers that you can see, so just these. And the header, it's pretty easy because it's always going to be 7 columns, right? Because it's from Sunday to Saturday. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and finally Saturday. Right? So you can see here the table. It takes the entire space, which is good. And the body is what is going to be a little bit more complex. So I'll leave it blank for now. Because the body is going to have, oh, by the way, all calendars that I've seen, including the Toast UI one, they have 6 rows, always 6 rows. So this is what I am going to do for this calendar in particular. First of all, let's create some scripts here. And bear in mind the style and the scripts that I'm going to be creating here, right? They are all going to be inside the component, calendar component. I'm just doing this outside so I can see the results here. And so I can define the element in a way that it's easier to work with, right? So let me check something. Yeah, well, we're at 36 minutes in, but I think we can do this under an hour. So we have a script, and let me start by making a few assumptions, right? So I'm going to assume that I'm always going to have, and I can do that because I am creating the element, I always going to have this. So I can create in constant and make a reference to that component. So document calendar document dot query selector easy calendar. All right. Now with this, I can create another constant that would be the body. And I can say calendar, query selector, the body, right? Because this is the only table that I have inside. Inside that table, this is the only T body that I have. So there you go. Next will be the I need to define year and month, correct? So let me put in the navigation just a few elements, just so we can start maybe playing with it. So yeah, let's just use input number for the year. So this is the year. I don't need an ID. And this is the month. I'm going to be putting some placeholders here. So this year. I'm going to say value is 2013. Obviously this, well, I'm not going to define a value here. I'm going to define a minimum value of 1970s. And the max is going to be 2500. Okay, this is for the year. The month, minimum is 1. Whoops. Maximum is 12. Right? This will be my navigation for now. So let's make a few references to those objects as well. So they are all inside calendar. So I can say calendar, not calendar, but the name of the element. So year, input, calendar, query selector, the name is year. Okay, so I'm getting the input that has the name, the attribute name equals year, right? So this is the guy. And my month input would be the same thing. So month. Now that I have some references to a couple of elements inside my page, what I can do is I can initialize these two, because I didn't want to put value here. I want to take the current date and do that. So let's create a current date constant. So current date equals to new date. Right? So now what I can do is here input dot value equals to current date dot get full year. Okay. And in the same fashion, I can say that the value for the month is current date dot get month. There's a catch here, because dates in JavaScript are pretty tricky to work with. The month for a date in JavaScript starts with 0. So January instead of 1 is 0. So get month plus 1 will give me the correct value for the month. And as you can see here, this is true. If I didn't put plus 1 here, it would say April, and that's really not correct. So plus 1, now I have everything perfect on my calendar, right? And I can move up and down, and this goes up to 12 and minimum of 1. Okay. So far so good. And all right. So like I said, my calendars are going to have 6 rows on the body, 6 rows that are identical. Right? They will have 6 rows of 7 cells. So let's do that. So if I'm going to have everything the same, I can create another constant here. So let's start making a few comments. Adding calendar lines or rows. You decide what you want to call it. So this is a simple for loop. Starting with 0. It's less than 6. And I++. So this is what I want to do. And before I do that, let's create one line. So let's create a TR. This is going to be the TR for there's only one. So TR equals to, and we can even do it like this. So TD and /TD. So this is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns, 7 cells inside this TR. All right. But this is actually the inner HTML, because what I want here is a document dot create element of type TR, and the TR dot inner HTML will be this. Right now I have a table row with 7 table cells. And I want to add this 6 times to the body. So tBody, which I have, no I don't. Yeah, this should be tBody. So tBody dot append child TR. Again, I don't want to make any references to this. I just want to make a copy. So load node. True for the deep, right? That's it. If Yeah, it's already showing here. Let me do this. So perfect. I have my calendar here now, right? So far so good. The adding calendar lines. Now, what I want to do is I am going to create a function called build calendar that is going to do that for me, right? So the build calendar, the purpose of the build calendar is to take year and month and assemble the numbers of the calendar. So how do we do that? First of all, we have to check a few things. For example, what is the date that we want? What is the date that this month of this year starts with? It's the first day of the week, right? So day number 1 for this month, for example, if I can get the calendar to open. Yes, there you go. So let me try to, I can't open calendar here, which is pretty ridiculous. But let me open calendar here. There you go. So this month started on Monday, right? This month started on Monday. And then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it will end in a Wednesday. I need to know the stuff so I can write the numbers in the correct spots, right? In the correct slots here on my calendar. So the first day would be here on Monday. The last day would be here on Wednesday. But how many days this month has? We know, but the computer, the code needs to know. So how can we do that? So the build calendar function is going to give those answers for us, right? So first of all, before we do anything, we need to clear the calendar, because we're going to write numbers all over the place, but I want all of that to be cleared, right? So let's go for tbody dot grid selector all. In this case, I want to get all the TDs from that body, and I want to say that for each of those TDs, I want to TD inner HTML equals to this, because then this is going to clear all the data that I already have. All right, so next is let's just start building the numbers. So what I want to do is I first have to get what is the date that I'm using. I have my current date here, right? Which is going to be useful in the future because I want to do something with the current date. But the date that I'm going to be calculating, the date, is going to be based on the numbers that I'm passing here, year and month. So it's going to be a new date based on the year, month -1, because you have to remember that this is not actually the number for the month, so it's -1, and the day is always 1, right? And I can ignore the hour part of the date, because if you don't pass anything, it's always going to be 0. So the date is this. So the first of some month of some year. The All right, so how do I get how many days I have in a month? So what is the last day of a month? The last day of a month is one day less than the first day of the next month. So for example, what is the last day of May 2023? Is the first day of June 2023 minus 1 day. So let's create a constant here called 1 day, because we are going to do some math on the dates to get the last day of the month. So this is going to be some number. How can I define which number is this? Well, in JavaScript, dates are a little bit, like I said, they are tricky to work with. What is this? Is there something wrong with the code? Ah, yeah, because of this. All right. So dates are a little bit difficult to work, a little tricky to work in JavaScript because they have a unique format. So if I go here and say new date, it's pretty obvious that this is the correct date, right? It's Sunday, May 21st, 2023. It's 9:56 in the morning. Perfect. But watch if I get the value of this date. It's a pretty big number. What is this number? Well, this number is the number of milliseconds for this date since the beginning of time. The beginning of time in a computer is the 1900s. But I can't simply say, okay, give me 1901 1st of January and value of. Why is that? It's a Friday and it's all good, but GMT minus 306 is not something that is accurate. So 1970s. Now I have something correct. And if you get the value of this, this is what we have, right? So this is basically the start of time. Is if I put -1 here, let's go for 2689. Zero. So what date is this? New date 0. It's 1969. Is December 31st of 1969, 9 p.m. All right. December 31st, 1996. Oh yeah, because I am GMT -3. If I was on new date.utc, for example, 0, it's not that. Yeah, and then I have to give it a number, which I don't want to. Yeah, it's pretty difficult. But based on this information, what I have is that the 0 would actually be 1970, 1st of January of 1970, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. So yeah, that's exactly it. Let's clear this out. And the new date 0 is this if you don't take into account the time zone, right? So the time zone of set is 180, which is correct. So all right. So if I go for 1970, 1st of January, this is going to give me the first day, first hour, first everything, right? Let me put the hour, second, minute, second, and millisecond. It's the same thing, right? Value of is going to give me a number. This number is the first number of the beginning of times in JavaScript. So if I go for the next day, now I have another number, and I can make some math here to determine what is the difference. So day 1. And this is the difference, right? So 86 million milliseconds. It's in the 400,000. So I can copy this and say that one day is this. So this is the number of milliseconds between a day and the other. Okay? Someone is sending me a message here that's not what I want right now, but okay. So now we have the number of milliseconds between the difference. This is the number of milliseconds that I have in one day. So now I can do some math and say that the date is this, but next month is a new date. Same year, month, I not taking one because I want the next month, right? And the first day, it's the same thing. The only difference is month is not -1. So with this information, what I can do now is I can calculate where the last day, where I can calculate where the first day of the month is going to be, because obviously I have something else here, which is constant weekday, and the weekday is the date dot get day. This is very strange, because get date, you get the number of the day of that day, any given date, and get day is the day of the week. So JavaScript is terrible in terms of working with dates. It's absolutely horrible. If you don't like it, you can create some, and probably I will do that. You can create some sort of wrapper for the date class and create a few new methods with new names that return those values, because it's horrible. It's horrible to work with this. But in any case, this is what I have. So the date, the next month, and the weekday. So I know based on the weekday, because it starts with 0 is Sunday, and 6 is Saturday, I know where in here this is going to be. So weekday for this date is going to give me back 1. So I know this is a Monday, because 0 would be here, 1 would be here. So it's a Monday. And this is correct based on our calendar. Now I have to calculate how many days I have on this month. Well, the number of days, the last day, which is, I just want the number, right? So the last day would be the value of the next month minus 1 day. Right? So this is going to give me the number of milliseconds, because value of is the number of milliseconds for this particular date, minus 1 day. And since this is the number of milliseconds, all I have to do is this. Right? And this is going to give me back a date. I just want the day of that date. Okay? So this is the last day. Let's see if that is correct. So let's put some breakpoints here. And F5. So I want the, oh yeah, I have to call the function or else this is not going to work, right? So let's call build calendar and let's pass year input dot value and month input dot value. All right. Now the date is Monday, May 1st of 2023, right? Next month will be June 1st, 2023. The weekday is 1, like I said, and the last day is 31, or the 31st of that month, which is correct. So our math is, it checks out, it's correct. So now all I have to do, since I calculated everything, now all I have to do is start plotting those numbers into those slots. So I know that the first slot is this, and then I can start counting forward. So let's use X and Y. X would be our weekday. It starts as a weekday. Y it starts as 1 because I want the first row, right? And then we have the day, which is always going to be 1, obviously, right? Now I can make a while loop, not a for loop, but in this case it's a while loop. So while, let's say day is less or equal to last day, we're going to do something. First of all, day plus plus, because if I save and I don't say day plus plus, this is going to create some troubles for me. Okay. So now, perfect. Now the code is working. What I want to do here before day plus plus is I want to plop, I want to get the next or first line of the table, right? And right afterwards, I want to get the next or first cell of that line, right? This is what I want. So to get the next or first line of the table, let tr is going to be tbody dot query selector tr nth child something. So yeah, where were we? So we calculated all the numbers. Yeah, I was going to plot everything, right? So I have to clear the calendar. And yes, get the next first line of the table, and then get the next first cell of that line. So let td equals to pr dot, not get, it's pre-selector. It's going to be td and child and some number. So these two numbers here, these are important. So this is going to be y, right? Because we're calculating y already. And therefore this is y. It's pretty simple. So let me just do this instead and make some string interpolation here. So this is y. Now I'm getting the next TD for that tr. In the same fashion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some space here for a string interpolation, and this is x plus 1. Y plus 1, because although x is weekday and weekday starts on a 0, like we saw, 1 is here, nth child starts with 1. So I have to add 1 to weekday, because if it starts with 0, this is 0 for the weekday, but this is 1 for nth child. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have to add 1 here to the x. Okay, now I have this. Next step is just to plot the data. So inner HTML equals to, I could put node tags or inner HTML, it doesn't matter. In the future, this is going to be inner HTML because it's not just the value of the day. It will be actually some HTML, some sort of a template for the HTML, but for now it's just the day, right? And then we can do everything else. So first of all, x plus plus, because I want to move to the next cell. If x is greater than 6, then x goes back to 0, right? And y plus plus. I don't need to worry about the y, because as you can see, it stops right where I want. Okay, so there you go. This is completely correct. So I have 31 days in May, but if I change the month here, it's not going to change the calendar. So let's fix that. I have to build calendar here, but now, and since I have references to the elements, I'm not even going to put this on in here, because this is just to build a calendar, and build calendar is working. So what I can do here is to get my input for the year and add an event listener for the event change, and this is going to call a function. The same for the month. Okay, and what it's going to do is it's going to build calendar based on here, the same thing that I just did here. Right? So let me copy this, paste it here, and let's test it out. So if I go back, perfect, there you go. 28 days in February, which is perfect. And yeah, seems to be okay. So there you go. Pretty easy to do calendar component. This obviously is just the JavaScript and HTML. It needs obviously a lot of work. It needs styling. It needs some templates. It needs events. But since this is a component, I can create all of that. So now that I know what is the actual HTML that I need, let's just copy all of this. Not copy, cut all of this and put here, right? Because this is exactly what this is exactly what I need. And you can see that some of this is already showing in here because I have the calendar, right? And since I didn't save the page, this still exists. So let me get rid of this. And this is already showing. By the way, here I have my table at 100%, but you can see that this is far from 100% because, like, if I do this, this does not affect my component, right? So this style here is for the component. So let me pull everything inside the component, and I mean everything. So let me put the style as well. There you go. So now I can say style, etc., etc. Let me just put the correct indentation like this, and there you go. Now I have 100%, and it will be styled in the same fashion. Now the scripts. What is happening? I want the scripts. Thank you. Okay, where to put the scripts? This is the HTML, right? And obviously this is the render function, so the scripts should be here. So let's just paste and start working on the scripts, because what I have now, and I just saved and nothing happened because this is incorrect, right? I can't read from calendar because there is no document pre-selector, because this is not on the document. What I have here is 1 day, which is correct, but the calendar is now going to read from, like I said before, this shadow root, right? The rest can stay the same because this is just creating a new element, but what I'm doing here, I'm doing on the calendar shadow root, and as you can see, just by changing that, everything gets back to work, right? This is all working again. So there you go. I have my body, and on my HTML I don't have anything, right? I just have my calendar component, and the component, let's check it out, is just this. So this is my calendar component, right? And inside my calendar component I have my shadow root. Inside it I have a lot of other stuff. The good thing is this is inside a container, which means that I can resize the way I want, and that's exactly what I I will do in the future. But yeah, this is done. This is done. You can see that this has all the numbers here. Everything is filled up correctly. Now I can just continue with this and create some events, some methods, for example, for refresh, to find a date inside my calendar and return the actual cell where that date is. Based on a date, I get back a cell, because then I can do some neat stuff with it. For example, if I have some WebSockets communicate with the server, and the server sends back a signal saying, okay, there is a new event for the 16th, for example, then I can receive that event and do something with the calendar. For example, update this date here to show the new event, which will give me a calendar with some sort of real-time update capability, which is always nice to have, right? And from this I can extend, because the hardest part is to calculate this, which we already did in 1 hour. But after this, and by the way, 1 hour because I was making this video, because this is a 30 minutes, 45 minutes work. But in any case, what you can do now, after since you have this, is just, you know, starting to style the way you want. Changing the fonts, for example, it would be nice to have, instead of numbers, you have a drop down here with the months, arrows for back and forth in the months, a little bit more a neat arrangement of the elements on the navigation, some sort of toolbox here, just so we can manipulate the calendar, for example, adding events, deleting events, etc. So it's always nice to see that with simple code, right? 120 lines of code, you have a pretty complex element made entirely with JavaScript. And this is actually a component, a reusable component, right? There you go, again. And as you can see, they are independent from each other. So 22, let's go for January 2019. There you go. And in here, 2025, January 2025. Oh, this is nice. Nice to have. This is an independent component. You can style it the way you want. Oh, by the way, I said that I was going to show how to style the elements inside the components, because as you can see, if I try to do styling here, for example, I'm going to start a style and say table, for example, background color, like Nakwa, that doesn't affect anything here, because the components are independently, they have their own style. They are independently styled, right? If I put in here that background color, for example, EDD, then you'll see that this styles the tables, right? But there is a way to do that outside, where you can, for example, style the fonts, because we do have the structure. The structure is correct, the structure is fine, but now I want to start doing something like this, for example, right? So table t-head, and I want that to be a background color, I don't know, 29, 29, 29, and color white. Just to change a little bit. So that's not styling, but there is a way to do that. So in the DOM, what you can do is you can say that for example, this element here it has a name. So you say part container, and what you can do on the outside, you can style this part of the component because it has a name. In the same fashion, you can style the t-head if you put a part header. So in here, you can just do something like this, part, and then you give it a name. Let me go to the documentation of this because I can't really remember. And by the way, I discovered this using Shoelace. So if you go to Shoelace, which is a library of components, that is the library of components that I use on my personal projects, they do have web components, custom web components, right? So now this this has the theme, and it says here CSS custom properties and the part selector. This is how you can create something on the components, how you can style the components from the outside. Okay, so let's check the part selector. So you have your custom element part, and then you identify your part. So pretty easy. What we can do here is I have my custom element, which is the easy calendar. And by the way, I'm styling for every easy calendar on the page. And then you give the name of the part, which is header, for example. So if that is the correct way to do, when I save, yes, it is the correct way to do. So it is styling now the header, the part header for all the easy calendar elements. And therefore, if you define enough parts, you can start creating styles for each and every element or sub-element of your custom elements from the outside. You don't need to style the elements because this style here is for the component. Okay, this is for the component. This is not going to affect, for example, the padding here. If I increase it to 10 or some number, you see that it affects here because it's inside the element. But if I try to do this on the outside, 20, it's not going to affect. Even if I say easy calendar and table, it doesn't affect anything because I don't have a table inside my easy calendar, not in here, right? This is part of the shadow DOM of my easy calendar. So this is how I access that part. If I want to do this, I need to let the browser know calendar table, and I can name this part as the calendar body, and then I can start styling things. For example, here on my part called calendar table, if now I do this, then I have 20 of padding, which I don't really want. So there you go. This is a way to style elements inside a component, inside a custom component. This is pretty basic stuff, right? And I suggest you guys, if you're not particularly knowledgeable in styling components and creating components, I would suggest you guys to check out the MDN page for that. You can go on Google and Google web components MDN, and you will be sent to this page here, where you can go through the concepts and the guides, how to do things, what is the best way to do, and even it talks about the Shadow DOM, and even it gives you some examples, right? So let's go for it. No, this is the specifications. I don't know the specifications, or the components example. So there you go. You have web components example, and yeah, you can check out the source code for some of these and see how they do stuff. And you can try to do it yourself. To be honest, you can try to create some components yourself, because if you remember in the beginning of the video, what I said was, okay, this is how you do. You create a class, you create some sort of rendering and template for the class, exactly in the same manner you would do if you were creating something for the normal DOM, right? The regular DOM. And then you define a new element with this custom elements.define method here. You pass the new name of the element, and you pass the class that is going to have the methods, the explanation, the schema on how to present the elements on the page. So yeah, there you go. You have a calendar. I hope you guys liked the video. I am pretty sure that people that follow our channel on YouTube and Twitch, people on Twitch, they have music. You guys on YouTube don't have music. It would be good to join us on our Twitch channel. Some people, well, the channel has been upgraded and updated quite recently, and there aren't many people following the channel just yet. But on the YouTube channel, I do have quite a few that are migrating from the old channel to this new one. And I would like to say to you guys, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to make these tutorial videos for you guys. It's always a pleasure to play with new stuff and show that not always you need to use a framework like Vue and React and Angular to create something like this. You can always resort to JavaScript vanilla. And I do have another video for you guys that is going to be uploaded maybe next week or the week after that. That is how to do basic reactivity using plain vanilla JavaScript. It's a very good tutorial. It goes right up this same alley of creating elements and etc. But this time we will have some reactivity, right? I am going to pull data from an API, and you guys will see that data coming up in the stream inside an element, because the element has a bind to that data, and it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. I am very excited to do this stuff for you guys. Thank you for being here. Click the thumbs up if you liked it. Click the bell to receive notifications on our next videos. I don't do videos very often, but when I do, they are very instructive. I hope you guys found this one instructive as well. And yeah, that's it. See you guys on the next one. And people on Twitch, please call your friends, call your neighbors, call your family. I would love to have you guys here. Yes, I have the AC on. It must be a little bit noisy right now, but it's hot as hell in here. I will keep this on. But in any case, the video is finishing. Thank you very much. See you at the next one. Goodbye.